The ANC has asked for space to deal with the matter of its Secretary-General Ace Magashule. This comes after he appeared before the party's Integrity Commission. Magashule is currently facing 21 charges of corruption, fraud and money laundering linked to his time as Premier in the Free State between 2009 and 2018. ANC spokesperson Bule Mabe says the public will be notified after all necessary processes have been concluded by the Integrity Commission.
The fact that the SG has taken a courageous step to appear before the Integrity Commission without being invited himself shows that he has got nothing to hide. He is willing to share information there. He has taken the officials he leads with into confidence. There is now a process that is being undertaken by the Integrity Commission. There is also another process that is being undertaken by the officials arising out of the resolution of August, where officials have now been given a mandate to develop guidelines on the notion of step aside. When all of those things are considered finally by the National Executive Committee, we will be able to then come out to the public and communicate a firmer position on what we are doing. A lot of work has happened. In the intervening period, the officials went and procured various legal opinions so that it could be able to empower the National Executive Committee to understand what needs to be done when certain decisions or resolutions of conference are being implemented or are being executed.
Meanwhile, political analyst Levi Ndo believes that any move to have the ANC Secretary-General Ace Magashule step aside could have negative repercussions if not properly implemented.
I think this is part of the processes within the ANC, which actually started some few years back. I remember the ANC has got a big challenge with the issues that relates to integrity, that relates to ethical conduct, that also relates to good governance. And that is why they have the Integrity Commission had to be established by the ANC. I see this as some form of a compromise, but also at the same time following processes within the ANC. Expectations from some people were that immediately at the NEC meeting, we would actually get the results that says that Ace Magashule has actually stepped aside. And I think some wanted the slow process, which is also fair, to run. The possibility of Ace Magashule to be pushed to step aside would actually have some negative implications if not properly handled. But also at the same time, the ANC has resolutions that has to be followed and also has to look at the question of unity. So for me, the ANC has to create a balance wherein the unity and cohesion of the ANC is maintained, but also at the same time, dealing with issues that are tarnishing the image of the ANC, and also ensuring that there is fairness and everybody should be seen to be treated in a fair manner and in a manner that will be acceptable to both factions within the party.
Well, let's stay with the theme then. Joining us is former anti-apartheid activist and academic, Professor Feroz Kachalia. Good evening, Professor Kachalia, and thank you so much for your time then tonight. When you take a look at some of the issues that, the ANC has had to grapple with in recent history, do you think that the organization can speak with any authority on moral issues in this country?
Kathy, I couldn't hear what your previous contributor was saying. And I should mention that I'm also a member of the NEC, and I was party to the decisions that were made in the last NEC. So your question is about whether the ANC can speak with some moral authority on these questions. It seems to me that the ANC's moral authority has been severely compromised in recent times because so many of its leaders have acted in their own interests and in apparently corrupt ways. This is a very serious situation, particularly for an organization like the ANC, which is more than 100 years old, which after all was born to liberate our people with a very strong moral ethos at its inception. So when officials, public representatives act in ways that are inconsistent with the public interest in an ordinary political party, it's damaging enough. But when ANC leaders behave in this way, it is doubly damaging. However, I think that it should also be acknowledged that large numbers of ANC members, people in leadership positions, have over a period of time taken steps to try and correct this problem and to address it decisively. We have clear and emphatic resolutions adopted at the last conference, reaffirmed by the NEC. And I think that in the last NEC, the decision to apply that resolution firmly, resolutely, and consistently to all leaders of the ANC, including the Secretary-General, is an important step forward in trying to remedy the trust deficit and the credibility deficit that the ANC certainly currently faces.
Of course, Professor Kachalia, there's serious questions about what the true effect of what came out of the last NEC is going to be, with this matter being referred to the Integrity Committee, which is the very same commission that says that its recommendations are never adhered to. And in fact, we can look at some cases where the Integrity Committee has made recommendations and those have not been adopted. And in the eye of the public, there are questions about whether there's actually been any movement. So yes, the NEC endorsed those resolutions, but taking it back to the Integrity Committee, by many, it seems is a sign of just going around in circles.
Well, let me say a couple of things about that. It was certainly my view, and the view of many in the NEC, that resolution applies clearly and specifically in the present situation to the Secretary-General of the African National Congress, because he has now been charged with very specific and serious crimes relating to corruption. So my view was certainly that the resolution should be implemented without any qualification and without any delay. However, bear in mind that this is a difficult situation for the African National Congress, because Ace Magashule is an important figure in the ANC and he is its Secretary-General. And for the ANC to have insisted on implementing this resolution at its last NEC, I think is very important, and that should also be acknowledged. Now, this matter has been referred to the Integrity Committee with very clear directives. In my view, it's very clear that the SG has to comply with the conclusions reached by the Integrity Committee. And so that leaves very little room for non-implementation of this resolution. In fact, it was my view that in order to assist the ANC to preserve its unity under difficult circumstances, the SG should voluntarily agree to comply with this resolution and to voluntarily step aside. So there may be some delay, but I think that the implementation of the resolution is inevitable.
One of the things that you're, of course, also facing here is the outcome of the Integrity Commission. So should the Integrity Commission come to the finding that, in fact, there is room, at least according to the official processes of the ANC, for the Secretary-General to step aside, he could very well do what the likes of the Deputy Finance Minister, David Masondo, has done and simply not comply with those recommendations. Do you believe that, whichever way you're looking at it, the ANC is on a collision course with, at least some sectors of the ANC, is on a collision course with the Secretary-General?
Look, from my point of view, we have very clear resolutions and we have very clear expectations grounded in a 100-year-old tradition that the decisions of the ANC have to be complied with. And that applies to all members of the ANC and all those who exercise or hold leadership positions with the ANC, in the ANC. Now, I indicated that it was my view that the resolution should be implemented without resolution. The majority view was that the resolution should be implemented, but that the SG should be afforded the opportunity to present himself before the Integrity Commission, to present any information which we might not have, which might lead them to the conclusion that there might be mitigating circumstances. Personally, I can't see that, because we are now faced with a situation where he's been charged by the country's prosecuting authorities, and he must now, those charges are going to be examined in a criminal trial. So, yes, there is some delay in the implementation of the resolution, but I can't see that his presentation before the Integrity Commission is going to change the outcome.
I'm going to continue our conversation with former anti-apartheid activist and academic Professor Feroz Kachalia, continuing our conversation with former anti-apartheid activist and academic Professor Feroz Kachalia. We're talking about the moral standing and authority of the ANC. Professor Kachalia, one of the things that you spoke about before we went to break was how it would not be optional for whatever the findings of the Integrity Commission on the matter into the Secretary-General are going to be, that those would need to be implemented. What then happens to every other finding of the Commission that has not been implemented to date?
Kathy, may I just say please don't refer to me as a former activist, because I have exactly the same convictions today as I had when I was 10 years old. And so that's why I'm still in the ANC with all the difficulties.
Fair enough, Professor Kachalia, fair enough.
That's just my question. Look, I can't see that the Integrity Commission can come to any other conclusion, given the clear and express terms of our resolutions, that someone who has been charged with a criminal offense has to step aside. Okay, we've given the SG an opportunity, in fairness, to present information which we are not privy to. But as I said, I can't see that the outcome can change.
Do you feel that there could be a further fragmentation of the ANC, whatever outcome this is, and especially if the resolution for those who are facing charges to step aside is implemented?
Look, we are a political organization, and there are, you can understand that there are difficulties in implementing a resolution of this nature. But the NEC has signaled its clear and unequivocal commitment to address issues of corruption. Now, to my mind, the real and present danger to the ANC's unity is not the implementation of this resolution. It arises, in fact, it will arise from a failure to address these questions clearly, consistently, and without fear and favor. It is the failure to deal with corruption that is disillusioning many of our voters and supporters and members of the ANC and putting our unity at risk. The ANC's unity has to be built on loyalty to its mission, its purpose, its programs, and its policies. It can't be based on a balance of power between factions, and it certainly cannot be based on a defense and a protection of malfeasance. So the ANC has set a course from its last conference to deal emphatically, clearly, unequivocally with the issue of corruption. And that is what we're going to do, because that is the only way to renew the ANC's integrity and to build its unity.
That was anti-apartheid activist and academic Professor Feroz Kachaliya. Professor Kachaliya, let me thank you so much for your time tonight.